Hi, this is David McCann for WebTNG. In this video, I'm taking a look at Blockstudio and Advanced Custom Field Blocks. The premium version of Advanced Custom Fields has the ability to create custom Gutenberg blocks. I haven't used this before as there seem to be a lot of steps in the block creation process. However, I recently purchased a copy of the Blockstudio plugin, which promises to streamline the process of creating ACF blocks. So I wanted to try it out. I was surprised to learn just how fast the block creation process could be with Blockstudio. My goal here was not to learn all there is about ACF blocks or Blockstudio, but rather to see how fast I could get something up and going, and to get an idea about what the options are. In this video, I share my fast start experience, and then I try out my custom block in the full site editor. Let's start out taking a look at the Blockstudio website and what the Blockstudio plugin is. It's a helper for the premium, the pro versions of ACF and MetaBox. It's in essence a wrapper around their block creation process, and it's a huge simplification. In this video, I'm just looking at the absolute simplest use case where we can get going to define an ACF block and its HTML output in the smallest amount of code possible. So right here on the home page, you can kind of see an example of the code you might need. And this is actually, this top part here, this is actually almost all you need to define the block. And this is your HTML output to output the fields. This bit of code in the middle, you can actually define the advanced custom fields in the PHP file, in the Blockstudio definition file for the block. In theory, you wouldn't have to even use the advanced custom fields UI to define the fields. I'll show you why you might consider that later on. If we look here at some of the features on the home page, you can see it automatically enqueues your assets. It's customizable. I'm just going to be using the default path, but you can customize that. It includes support for Twig, which is a templating language that's part of the Symfony project. I've used this in other WordPress plugins. You can use Twig with MetaBox views. I've also used it with the widget builder and the Unlimited Elements plugin. It comes with Tailwind, which is a CSS utility framework. It's not showing here, but it also comes with Alpine, which is a JavaScript event library. Okay, so they're giving you a lot of tools. There's an example library, link up here too. If you're logged in and you click on one of these, you get the option to view the code. Otherwise, you just see this view option here. And here's what the code looks like. And while I think this example library is pretty nice, these aren't really pulling ACF fields. You do need Acf Pro or MetaBox to create these blocks, but these examples that I saw here aren't using ACF fields dynamically like we would normally think. And so the heart of this website to me is the documentation. And we'll come back to this in a few minutes when we create our block. All right, now let's go take a look at the testing site that I've set up. I've got the Page Builder Framework theme installed. Actually, I have a child theme of the Page Builder Framework. You see I've got some demo posts and I've got a custom post type here, books. We'll see in a few minutes why the child theme is important. Then here are the plugins. You can see I've got custom post type UI, which is what I use to create the book's custom post type. And then I've got Advanced Custom Fields Pro. Blockstudio requires the Pro version. The Pro version is what you use to create blocks. Let's take a look at the fields that I've set up. A field group called Book Fields, and you see it's just two simple fields. Author's website, which is a URL field, a link to the author's website, and then author's photo, which is an image field. And the field group is assigned to the book custom post type. And if we look at a book record, we see here's our field group at the bottom. Here's the link to the author's website and the author's photo. Okay, let's go back now to the Blockstudio documentation page. And as I said, this is kind of what you need to define your block, the Blockstudio way. And they're showing you that's equivalent to the ACF way here. And then this is your output for that block. This isn't giving you any options to add fields or data. It's just the output. And really, the output is the interesting thing. But this file header, this is the complete list for ACF. Metabox, the list might be different. That was one of the things I noticed in the documentation is I think Blockstudio first supported ACF and then later it supported Metabox. So most of the examples are just ACF related. Then here's where you can actually define the fields in an array instead of using ACF, the user interface. And here they're using the ACF helper function getField to pull those fields out and show them on the page in Gutenberg. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just copy this code into my code editor, paste that in, and then the name of my block is going to be bookauthor.info.php. Where do you put this PHP file? I want to save it so I get the syntax highlighting and everything. So where do you save these? So the instructions are that you save this in a folder called Blockstudio in your theme folder. So I'm going to go to my WordPress install, WP Content Themes, and I've got the child theme enabled. And a child theme is good because if we put it in the parent theme folder, we might lose it when the theme got an update. We might lose our work. So I'm going to put it in the child theme folder and create one called Blockstudio. Okay, and then here is where I'm going to save my file. So I'm going to go to my editor and save my file. Okay, and calling it bookauthor.info.php. Okay, so I'm saving that there, and now I get the syntax highlighting. The title of my block is going to be bookauthor.info. My description is going to be a block to show book author fields. Category design, this is where it's going to show up in Gutenberg, so I'm not going to bother to change that right now. Icon light bulb, that's fine. Mode preview, sure, and then supports align, okay. I'll have to change that to true. And then supports mode, I'm not sure what that's for. I'm just going to leave it at false. I've already defined my fields in ACF, so I'm going to comment this out, but let's just go ahead and add the field names here. We have author's website. The label is book author info, and the name of the block. Oh, sorry, the label is author's website. And the name of the field is author's website. And it's a URL field. And then the other field is going to be, and I'm filling this out because I'll show you where you could use this if you wanted to. Author's photo, author's photo, author's photo, and this is an image field. So I'm just going to comment this out. Okay, then this is the output. You're just outputting, some HTML. So I created some HTML output here. So I've got a div, kind of a wrapper, and then inside there's a div and got some inline style, which you could put in a style sheet. Then I've got an image tag, and the source, I'm using the ACF PHP helper function. Get field author's photo and get the ID. So that's an optional field, but I've put it in there. And then if that's blank, it's just blank, it's empty. And then we have another div, same thing, we've got some inline style there. And then I've got an anchor, and here we're using the get field to get the author's website, the URL. It falls back to Google. or whatever you want. I guess maybe it'd make more sense just to put the home page of the site there. Then I added a class. This is the Page Builder Framework button class. So that will turn this anchor field into a button in the text author's website. Okay, so I'm going to change that. That's kind of what I did to create the block. This part here isn't really needed. It can be deleted. All right, now if this worked, let's go back to our page here, and I'm going to refresh this so that it picks up our changes. And let's see if we've got a block. Whoa, there it is. Okay, we just created a block. And that was very easy. We didn't define the preview. See up there, it's showing the preview up there. And we didn't define that in the documentation. If we kept going, it tells how to create the preview that shows there. But anyway, I'm just going to now add this field, and there's the author's photo. That's pretty awesome. So I have seen sometimes when I did this, the first time when I was testing, the author's photo didn't show. This was kind of a broken image the first time I added it. But after I went to the front end to view it, and then went back, see there's the button, there's the photo. When I went back later, then it showed up here. So I don't know if it was some, picking this up here or something. But anyway, this is pretty darn easy to create a block here. And I think this level of HTML and PHP is within reach of most site builders, our power users. So for power users or developers, you can create a block pretty fast using Blockstudio. All right, so there's your block. You can put this inside of a column or wherever you want on your page. Now, there was one thing I said I would show you. Why, remember here there's this option to define the fields in the Blockstudio file, PHP file. And I mentioned I'd show you why you might be interested in that option. And this is something with ACF, and I think MetaBox has something similar. And that is that you can actually assign the field group to a block. Okay, and in this case, then it would be my book author info block. So just to kind of show you this, I've assigned that now to there. And what happens here, if we go into a record, I'm just going to remove this here. Now add the block. And so if you do it this way, where it's assigned to the block, then you enter the fields over here. So this is where I would put the link to the author's website. I don't remember what it is right now. And add the photo. You don't use the list of custom fields below the content. You do it in the block here. So I kind of don't like that quite as much, because then if you want to use your custom fields with some other builder, you've kind of lost that flexibility. So that's why I kind of skipped this option. And I'm just going to remove this now. And let's go back to ACF. And let's set this back to post type. Okay, but I wanted to show you, if you were going to go that route, you wouldn't necessarily have to define them here. You could define it there. So that's kind of, I guess, what that's for. All right, now we've got the ACF block working. What came to mind is, wouldn't it be really cool if this worked with the full site editor? So let's give that a try. Now ACF just released a beta for Acf Pro, and we see one of the features of the beta is preliminary support for the full site editor. So I downloaded the beta from ACF. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from the Page Builder Framework child theme to the 2022 theme. And again, you know, if this were production, I'd use a child theme. There is a child theme already defined for 2022. And there are also instructions in the WordPress handbook for creating a child theme of a block theme. So in production, you do this, but for the quick test, I'm not going to. And then what we have to do is go and copy the files that we had in the folder over. So let's go do that. So let's go here and let's copy this folder, Blockstudio. And let's paste it into here. Okay, so there's that. Now, when you're working with a block theme, they define their templates in HTML files, and there isn't a template for our custom post type books. Block-based themes largely, I don't think it's 100%, but largely follow the same template hierarchy as the PHP themes. So for a PHP theme, we would create a PHP file called single-book.php. But since it's HTML files, we'll create one called single-book.html. Okay, so let's go back here and create an empty template file, single-book.html. Okay, there it is. So now let's go back to our theme and let's go into the site editor. And I did modify this theme a little bit. The header by default has this image under it and it's kind of very tall. So I just modified this so it would be shorter. Okay, and we go to templates and here's our template here. It would not have shown up if we hadn't created this empty file. So I'm going to edit this. We go into the editor here and I'm going to add the header. Here it is. Okay, and then I'm going to add the footer and choose the existing footer. Okay, and then in between these two, I'm going to add a group, and inside the group, I'm going to add the column block. This will be 2 columns. You can kind of check here to see, here's our group and here are 2 columns. Okay, on this side, I'm going to add the post title. It's a core block for post title. And then I'm going to add the post content under that. Okay, and then on this side, I'm going to add the featured image. And under that, I'm going to try adding our book block. And it's not showing up. So let's save this. And you know what I forgot to do? And I realized what I forgot to do is update to the beta version of Advanced Custom Fields. So let's do that. And we'll replace that with the beta. And now here's the beta. Okay. So now we should have a little more success, hopefully, in adding our block. Let's go back to our template. And let's see. And now let's try adding it. And here it is. Okay, so the beta is working so far. I'm not surprised that it's showing broken here because there's no context. Our block isn't hard coding an image, which I guess might be an option for a fallback. So it would show here. But anyway, so here's our block. I guess we can try aligning that center. I don't know how it's going to work. Okay, so now I'm going to save. Okay, let's go back to our book records. We had already removed the block at the bottom. Yep, we already removed that. So now let's just go view the record. Unfortunately, the full site editor, the featured image block in the full site editor doesn't let you size the image. You can when you add it just in Gutenberg. So we might have to add some CSS to make that image smaller. But the good news is here's our block. We've got the author's photo and let's try it. There's the author's website. All right, so everything's working here. It's not showing as a button because that button class was for the Page Builder framework. So we could also add some CSS to make this a button if we wanted to. So really awesome though, with the ACF beta, we're able to use the block in the full site editor. All right, so that's the walkthrough, kind of quick look at Blockstudio and the ACF beta. Now for some discussion and conclusions. First, let's talk about Blockstudio. One issue I found with Blockstudio is the documentation. There are some examples using custom fields, but not that many. I think the expectation is that the user already knows how to create blocks using ACF or MetaBox. In my case, however, I wanted to avoid the complexities of ACF blocks. As you saw in the video, Blockstudio works for that, but for more complex use cases, you'll probably still need to consult the ACF documentation. When it comes to MetaBox, the documentation gap was even more apparent because the few examples given are ACF based, and MetaBox has slightly different syntax. On the plus side, support is good. I used the support option to contact Blockstudio help and got replies very quickly. Blockstudio is reasonably priced and provides some nice helper functions to make it easier to create ACF blocks. It comes with support for Tailwind, Alpine, and Twig. I've used Twig before and it's very capable for creating templates. You can output custom fields, use conditional logic, and loop over arrays, including the list of posts returned in an archive. So my conclusion in relation to Blockstudio is that it really does help you to create blocks faster, but it's geared towards power users and developers who are willing to do some experimentation. Now let's talk about ACF blocks in the full site editor. WordPress Core now provides all the placeholder blocks you need for creating your own templates for posts and pages. However, WordPress has never provided the ability to display custom fields on the front end, and this is the benefit of ACF blocks. The end user doesn't have to edit a PHP template. Instead, the content creator can display custom fields using Gutenberg. And now ACF allows us to take this a step further. The Acf Pro beta lets us use ACF blocks with the full site editor. This means that people building sites are less dependent on page builders. Remember also, it'll be possible to use regular themes in hybrid mode, so we won't always have to use block-based themes. My conclusion in regards to the ACF beta is that it's a nice feature, and it makes the full site editor a more attractive option. Overall, I was pleased with Blockstudio. I was able to quickly create a simple block to display custom fields. I felt that with some time and experimentation, I could create very polished blocks. In terms of the full site editor, it's still in its early stages and may not be suitable yet for many situations. However, the ability to use ACF blocks with the full site editor is an interesting option for site builders who want to go all in with Gutenberg and avoid page builders. For these site builders, using ACF blocks and Blockstudio could be a game changer. So that's my look at Blockstudio and ACF blocks. There's a text version of the video available on the WebTNG website, along with other walkthroughs, reviews, and videos. Hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching.